Hello, everyone. Welcome to Praise the Run podcast. Patrick, you just got here.
I just got here.
I hit the record button, but you got a heart out.
Earlier you hit it before I was in the building?
No, I just
I
did.
thought you hit it as I was walking up the stairs or something. Like,
No.
we're really changing the intro.
No.
There's a podcast that I watch, trying to remember his name. Doesn't matter. It does, I guess, to be respectful. I'll remember it later. But, he starts his podcast where he's like the guest walks in the door off camera, and then he just has it on his full living room, so they'll be setting up, and he'll be getting in blankets and drinks and stuff for the first 10 minutes. That's their cold open, and then after they get settled, they're like, all right, welcome, blah blah blah, and then they do a hard cut to the intro.
Is it stream live?
Open. No.
Oh. If it was live, that would make sense. You're getting ready for the stream. And
no, it's just how he does it. He just invites them in, and then they sit on the couch, because the couch is across from his chair that he sits in.
Right.
So he'll be just talking off camera, hey, you want, I got tea, I got coffee, and then they'll be having banter just about their day, basically, and then as soon as they get settled, they cut to the actual topic. So it's pretty cool. It's a cool little. It's different. That's what that reminded me of.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many podcasts I do watch that are live that during the setup they just have their the stages beforehand. Right. But really for us there's not a lot of setup. I hit record and then occasionally I have the laptop going.
Right.
But not this week. This week is a very very short week, so I don't need to have any. We have been gone for a couple weeks though, car trouble and stuff like that. Nothing too out of the ordinary for us, but
yeah. Just regular life.
Yeah.
Obstacles.
Now it's been 3 weeks since the last episode almost.
Almost, yeah.
And actually not a lot of news has happened. A couple of big things have happened, but
overall it's been kind of slow.
Yeah, it's been slow. Today is the kickoff of Gamescom, so a lot of stuff will be coming this week specifically.
Oh, yeah, that's true. So next week will probably be a busier...
Yeah, next week we'll have a normal podcast time, and then we'll have a bigger podcast as well. But, I don't know, there's a couple of things that happened over the last thing. I pulled out an ingrown hair right before you came in, and that was a horrible idea, because now I'm bleeding everywhere.
Nice.
Yeah, so don't mind me, gushing blood. But Game Informer closed. Let me just pull up an article real quick. Game Informer, one of the last remaining gaming magazines in the United States. There are gaming magazines outside of the U.S., but in the United States, this is our last bastion of print media. It's shutting down after 33 years. The GameStop-owned publication announced on Friday the magazine's entire staff is being laid off. In its statement posted at X, the publication didn't give a reason for the shutdown. GameStop didn't immediately reply to a request for comment. Basically, Game Informer had announced that they are closing the doors. Not Game Informer proper, it seemed like, but it was announced that they were closing and that their whole website would revert to this splash screen page that would basically said after 33 years we're closing the doors or whatever. Let's see if I can find the... they don't have a picture of what the initial post was. Maybe because it got taken down. But the initial post, and I'm sure it's still up if I go to the Game Informer web screen, actually. The Game Informer website, there is a paragraph of text that nobody on staff wrote. and is believed to be written by AI, which is unfortunately. This is the splash screen now. Every single web page, every single article, every single everything on Game Informer's website
takes you to that.
Now takes you to this.
Wow.
There's all of the articles and stuff are gone.
They could have archived it.
Oh, there is a massive thing underway right now, but this part of the story, after 33 thrilling years of bringing you the latest news, reviews, and insights from the ever-evolving world of gaming, it is with a heavy heart that we announce the closure of Game Informer. From the early days of pixelated adventures to today's immersive virtual realms. Keep bleeding. I was like trying to hold it, hoping it stops. While our presses may stop, the passion for gaming that we've cultivated together will continue to live on. Thank you for being a part of our epic quest, and may your gaming adventure never end. Jason Schreier of where is he at now? It starts with a B. Bloomberg. Jason Schreier of Bloomberg now is doing a whole bunch of digging and stuff like that, and put in Chat GPT, Game Informer closing, send off speech, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And basically the same thing came out of it, just this verbatim block of text. So if it wasn't written by staff, I don't think any GameStop PR is writing specifically GameStop or Game Informer send off letters. I would imagine they did have ChatGPT kind of just take care of it.
Yeah.
Not to say that's more of just a straight up disrespect to Game Informer. Not to say that I would want some GameStop PR type of message, but you know, it should have been on their own terms. So a little bit after that, like you said, the people should start archiving this stuff pretty much immediately. That's what started happening. People going to the Wayback Machine.
Right.
Just pulling stuff, like archiving it. MinMax, the channel, they're all old Game Informer people, so a lot of them, it's been bringing those people on, helping with the archives part, putting old videos behind their paywall on Patreon, just so they don't get strucken down, stuff like that. So go support MinMax if you want any remnant of what Game Informer was. A lot of those people have moved on to there. Not a lot of the current staff, but some of the current staff had already been working for MinMax as well. And then I have the original post, or not the original post, but the real post from the editor-in-chief of Game Informer, Matt Miller. So pretty much the website got nuked. Every single page brings you to that splash screen now. Archival work is getting done. A couple days later, somebody realizes that they still have the keys to the Game Informer Twitter. So they post this giant long message.
Jeez.
This is all from Matt Miller, kind of, you know, I mean, 33 years, you gotta, you got one chance to say your goodbye.
Right.
This got posted to the Game Informer Twitter. Within minutes, GameStop nuked the Twitter account. So you cannot go to the Twitter account, but it wasn't fast enough for people, obviously. I saved it to my phone, you know, people have this. But I'm gonna read, not all of this, but the majority of this. Like I said, this is from Matt Miller. One Last Time is the name of this. 33 years is a long time. When thinking about saying goodbye to Game Informer, I felt that a few days of consideration were warranted to get my thoughts in order. I'm glad I waited. The outpouring of affection, support, and appreciation the team has received in recent days is humbling. It has reminded me how much this long-running magazine has meant to so many. From the outside, it might seem strange that a gaming magazine will warrant such nostalgia and fondness. However, for millions of gamers over the years, Game Informer was a portal to their favorite hobby. Many of us grew up with those glossy covers arriving monthly in our mailboxes, selling the dream of what was next in gaming. It was once a place where a love of gaming was celebrated without pretense or undue snark, where humor could coexist with thoughtful critique, and players could have each game enriched through a deeper understanding of how they were created and who created them. I inherited that approach to game coverage from the great writers, editors, and other creative voices that have shaped GI over the years, and I hope we find all staffers were worthy stewards of the legacy. Whatever obstacles and frustrations were thrust into our path in the recent years, I'm proud of each and every issue of Game Informer we shipped. Somehow, despite many dozens of distinct voices or perspectives on games that contributed over the years, the magazine remained consistent in tone and the spirit of excitement about games, and that's pretty remarkable. I'm going to skip the next two. They're basically thank you to the industry and the fans. Next two paragraphs. To the Game Informer team, past and present, it's strange that this one place has led to so many lifetime friendships and positive memories. It is one of the greatest honors of my life to have worked with you all, hit those tough writing deadlines, and shared in the joy of opening up each issue as it arrived to see the results of all that effort. No one can erase that sense of connection we share and how GI helped so many shape the conversation. After 20 years of monthly issues, I plan to take a bit to catch my breath and consider what's next. I still love games, and I hope to find a new way to stay connected to them. If you'd like to reach me, especially asking any opportunities for the talented team members who craft the final chapters of Game Informer's story, please reach out to his email. Spoiler alert, I will have nothing but positive things to share about my team's work and fervent recommendations that they could all add something special to the team. Thank you all. Play well and be well. Matt Miller. Yeah. Game Informer is dead.
Yeah.
Do you have any memories of Game Informer? Or were you a subscriber?
No, I didn't have a subscription. I mean, I think every once in a while we got like a free one.
Yeah.
Or something, but I never... No, I didn't.
I mean, it wouldn't be a surprise if I said I was a huge Game Informer subscriber when I was a kid. But like you, I haven't gotten a physical magazine. I mean, probably since 2019, like before the pandemic. And like at the end of those subscriptions, like I feel like the quality and like how they were shipped and stuff like that was like deteriorating, where like most of the issues I would get were like destroyed, so I wouldn't be able to read them or anything. Wow. And it was kind of a bummer. But like I still listen to the podcast and like the website. For us on the podcast, like there's so many Game Informer articles that would pop up.
Right.
But yeah, of course I was reading them when I was a kid. But the only way to get them was if you had a pro membership.
Yeah.
For the longest time, you couldn't just subscribe to the magazine. You had to be a part of GameStop, and if you weren't a part of GameStop, then, you know,
right.
I mean, it's like, it was $15 for the year, and you got that GameStop Pro rewards, and then that gave you part of the magazine subscription as well. And honestly, that's I think 2 issues of the magazine.
Hmm.
If you were to
Oh, wow.
if you were to buy it out that way, or maybe 3 back in the day before inflation.
Right.
But like Game Informer, it was before that was like it was like a Funko magazine before then, because it was part of Funko Land.
Right.
So when GameStop bought Funko Land, Game Informer kind of came with it. Andy McNamara, the creator of Game Informer, he had left like 6 or 7 years ago, a while ago. Now we've had 2 editors-in-chief since then. Reiner, who had been there since basically the beginning as well, and then Matt Miller shortly after. And Matt Miller was been there basically the whole time of the pandemic and stuff.
Right.
And he had been there for a long time before then too. But yeah, man, it's a bummer. That's a big hit, you know? There's a lot less people doing this specifically as, like, a full-time gig.
Yeah. Well, I think just because there's so many people streaming and doing game stuff on their own, there's just so much independent gaming content that,
Right. And, like,
you know.
Game Informer was definitely still making money.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I
For
mean-
sure. But it was bound to, you know,
Yeah. I want to pull up
I
the
mean,
staff
between
list.
podcasts and people just streaming, like, you could read an article or you could watch someone play the game.
Yeah. I was gonna bring up the, now it's gonna be a lot harder to find the list, but basically Game Informer, at the end of its life cycle between all of the print magazine and the online website, was like 10 people.
Yeah.
It was like barely
Wow.
any.
Yeah.
You know, like they had one video guy and 1 producer. They had like 4 writers. They had an editor in chief, you know, and then like a couple of like, you know, editors for writers. But then they all kind of like, you know, threw their hands everywhere and did things.
Right.
But you're right. Like the there is definitely a lot more people doing this. I mean, a lot of the podcasts I do listen to are people that have left these types of places.
Yeah, it's just a lot more visual and audio than
Yeah.
reading now.
And that's mostly a US problem. Like I said, like there's still print magazines in the UK and stuff like that, but
For sure.
it's very strange where like, I mean, even newspapers and stuff are dying out, but it's culturally, I don't know where that like left all of a sudden, you know?
It's just easier to post it online than print a bunch out. And
Yeah. We stopped getting demo discs with magazines
Right.
too. That was
Yeah.
a big thing back in the day. I mean, like
That's always sad.
yeah, dude. Like,
But now you can play it on GameStop or Game Pass most of the time or whatever.
I mean, demos at that point were like, I mean, demos like went away for almost a decade, and it wasn't
Yeah, I
until
don't know
like
the last time I played a demo, like an actual like quote unquote demo.
right. It's like Steam Next Fest comes around once a year now.
Yeah,
But, like,
demos now are like alpha, beta
yeah, I hate,
mode, and then even that.
that's
I mean,
so frustrating.
that's basically what it's become.
Yeah, and that's become like a marketing ploy where like
Yeah.
a beta is either the game is broken and when you're trying to test it, or it's pay $100 extra and play 3 days before everybody.
Right.
And that's like, yeah, with magazines and stuff like that, like subscriptions and stuff, they had, I know it was like within the last year they had announced finally that they were gonna do the subscription separately away from the Game Informer thing,
Oh yeah.
or GameStop thing, and it did pretty well, and I think it was February. was when they announced that you can buy subscriptions now. You can buy as many years as you want up front. We're gonna honor it. Blah blah blah.
Oh, word.
So I mean, like even it being a dead website, like or a print media is dead. Like Game Informer subscribers are still like hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah.
It was said that Game Informer used to be the third most subscribed magazine in the United States.
Wow.
Next to, like, Time Magazine and, like, E!
Well, it was definitely, like, the top of that niche.
Yeah.
You know, like, it was the entertainment magazine of
Right.
games.
And everybody with a GameStop.
I'm surprised that it died completely, because, I figured magazines were going to happen eventually regardless, because it's just easier, but the website thing kind of blew me, because it's like you could still produce web articles and make web content for other people to use and riff off of and stuff.
Right.
Like, I don't know why you had to shut that part off.
Yeah.
And you could still even maintain some sort of subscription basis if you really wanted to.
Right.
Because that's what every hometown newspaper, you get the first 3 articles for free, and then you got to subscribe to this online newspaper, and it's like, no.
Yeah, there's plenty of...
Why would I do that?
There's plenty of magazines that are now going that route of just subscription-based. Like, I don't know how well those websites are doing. I imagine, like, Game Informer... I don't know how far outside of the U.S. it would go, but, like, it was predominantly a United States thing. I think they did have, like...
Well, so was, like, the Times.
So, yes and no. I think that one is a little bit bigger than us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that one specific... That...
Or not Times. What's the New York one?
That's the New York Times, yeah.
Oh,
Time,
it's specifically just New York Times.
But
But then there's Times...
Time Magazine.
Which is just... Oh, that one's, like, worldwide. Yeah. That's true.
And that's, like...
The New York Times are, specifically,
Yeah,
that's in the title.
Right. But then that is it's not just a print, newspaper anymore that has a subscription.
But that's what I'm saying. That's one of those things
that
where,
can
like,
be worldly.
people are subscribed on their phone and stuff.
Right.
And,
And I want to say you could get, like, digital issues of the magazine as well. Like, that was another thing they started offering a few years ago.
Oh, yeah. Well, the Times make digital-specific issues now. Like, even, like, their covers and stuff are, like...
Right. And I don't think Game Informer would get to that point. The print magazine is such a lifeblood of what Game Informer was.
Mm-hmm.
The cover story of Game Informer is, like, the coveted, that's, like, the holy grail of games.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's just like being the cover of, any magazine. You get that cover page, you're like, oh, yeah, I did it.
The MinMax it's like a 4-hour podcast where they had, like, all of the old guard come in from, like, 10 years ago.
Oh, really?
And talk about the old days. And, like, they have stories of, like, it would be, like, Todd Howard one day, the next day Kojima, the next day it would be fucking Respawn, and then they would all be, battling it out pitch-wise for the cover of that month, where they talked about it was, like, the year of Fallout 4 or whatever, or Fallout 3, where it was, like, Batman, fucking, there was that, Metal Gear Solid 4 or 5, Fallout, and, like, there's just so many cool things. The access that they were able to get, like, seeing games several months beforehand.
Right, yeah.
They would go on cover story trips months before a cover would even be, it would be thought of, but it wouldn't be, like, idealized for a couple of months, like, the crazy thing. There's so many crazy stories of, like, reveal of Borderlands, dude. Like,
Yeah.
was through Game Informer. Borderlands was originally, like, a super gritty, like, dark, like, Max Payne, or not Max Payne, Mad Max,
Yeah.
like, everything was, like, super dark brown. There was no cell shading or anything.
Yeah.
And Andy McNamara has a story of, like, the original name for that game was called Pandora. And Andy McNamara and Randy Pitchford were, like, Brandy was pitching Andy on the game for the cover story or whatever, and Andy was like, "You gotta change the name, man, because it's garbage."
Right.
So that's when they changed it to Borderlands, and without Game Informer, it would have never been called that. It would have never changed its art style.
That's cool.
It would have been called Pandora.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know. I wanted to see how much of how much you had, like, experience with them, or any print magazine in general of yeah.
I was
Yeah.
usually the kid that, like, would flip through it as fast as I could in the aisles of Walmart, because my mom worked at Walmart, so, like, there was a point where I would just kind of hang out in Walmart for a little bit while she was, like, on the clock,
For sure.
And so
I did the same
I'd,
thing
like,
while they were shopping.
flip through the page. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'd just pick up an article, flip through, look for the games that I know about, because that's the other thing, too. I didn't have a lot of games until I could, like, afford them myself.
Right.
So, for the longest time, 90% of the magazine was just, like, stuff I've never heard of. I couldn't even imagine
Right.
what they're talking about. The other 10% was just like, oh, I'd love to play this game, or oh, I've played that before. And so
that was such a cool thing about that era. Was like there was the internet was very small, right?
Right.
But, like, you're right. Like, that was the only way we saw a lot of games. Period. The
Yeah.
way you're thinking about was just how everybody.
unless they made like a really big commercial, like a big deal, you didn't hear about most of the games you could buy.
Right.
Unless you walked through the aisles and then picked up a Game Informer and flipped through the pages. Because even like the smallest games would have a paragraph about them
Right.
on one of the pages, or a photo or something to kind of get you pumped about it. And
Yeah. And so many cool things. Like, I don't know. There's definitely, like, the other magazines that I want to mention, like PC Gamer is still around, but, like, PSM is gone, OXM is gone, Xbox Magazine I think is still in the UK but doesn't exist here, Nintendo Power's gone, EGM, ESM, all of these magazines. But yeah, man, that was, like, the only coverage you'd get for months. It would be like a screenshot of some CRT on a trade show floor.
Yeah.
And it was like, we saw this game. It was all in Japanese only. But it's Kojima, and it's, we think it might be the next Metal Gear, or, like, it turns out to be Zone of the Enders, or something crazy like that. There's so many cool instances. The first time you saw 3D Mario, like, those articles from back then, like, that was before my time, but, like, you still read those.
Right.
It's
No,
so
absolutely.
fascinating.
Yeah.
A
lot of cool reveals and articles and shit.
The reveal of Pokemon, like, the Game Informer reveal of Pokemon is crazy. But I was the complete opposite, where, like, I was fascinated with things that I would never see. I used to, like, Hollywood Video, right? They used to have, like, the pamphlet of, like, all of the movies, and then on the back it was all of the games for the month.
Yeah.
And I would just, every, or maybe it was even weekly. I think they would change every weekly, and, like, but I would flip through that, like, 4 or 5 times, like, a week,
really?
you
Just
know.
to see, like, what the different games were.
Right.
Yeah.
And, like, I was obsessed with, like, ESRB logos, and, like, like, I was obsessed with like advertisements and stuff
Yeah.
for games. Like print ads were insane back in the early 2000s. For
Yeah.
like my favorite one's the Mario Strikers one, where it's a net with a whole bunch of basketballs and it looks like testicles and says Mario's got big ones.
Wow. That's funny.
And, yeah, there's so many great
Different time
magazines.
back then.
Yeah, dude. Magazines were so cool back in the day. Like, the attitude of magazines was so different. Like,
Yeah.
you talk about... There's people who talk about, like, the online versus the print media and them being at the trade shows and stuff, where, like, online media would be, like, rushing to, like, their hotel room to, like, write an article real quick because, like, fucking, you know, some crazy reveal happened.
Right.
And the print guys are, like, they take their notes, they go to the bar, they go have a conversation, they go take a couple-hour nap, and
Yeah.
they go back to the trade show because they have to write their articles for next month's magazine.
Right, their deadline's so far. They don't have to be updated.
Right. So when Game
Minute by
Informer
minute.
when Game Informer became kind of a bigger thing, they had to kind of like toe the line of like what's going to the magazine, what's worth putting out right away.
Right,
And I think
yeah.
that was a lot harder on them as well. Because you kind of like, I mean, when you have the reveal of like, let's say a Starfield, or like, for them a bigger one would be like the reveal of Skyrim
Mm-hmm.
or something, or Batman Arkham City. That was a big one that I remember. That coverage would be planned, like I said, months in advance in some cases, versus like now, you know, like there's so many reveals that would be like, the second that it happens, we got to go put 200 words out. And
Right,
then,
yeah, there's a tweet about it already.
right,
Yeah.
and then those words are wasted on the internet versus like the Game Informer magazine, and it's like, well, also, how bloated do you want the magazine to be? Because
Right.
there's a lot more games now than
Yeah,
ever.
that's the other thing too, is like, how do you even narrow it down?
Right, and I think that's a problem with a lot of games media in general. Of like, you can't review every game anymore, so like the audience is so split and fragmented because only certain people play certain games.
Yeah.
Versus like, you would have that, but for like a whole team, right? You would have your sports guy and your
Right.
horror guy and your
Yeah.
RPG guy, and you could get away with that when there was...
Yeah, there was only like a page and a half for each
right.
thing, and now you need an article, or you need a magazine for just every section.
Right, and
Like,
now genres have subgenres, and
Yeah.
like, not there's not just an RPG versus an action adventure. Like, every action adventure is a 40-hour RPG elements. Like, you know,
nothing's just one thing, and not to mention all the indie games. You need something
Yeah,
just
dude.
to cover that.
indie games have completely like flipped the whole industry on its head compared to back then. I mean, like, the Xbox Live arcade days, you know, like,
Yeah.
even back then, it was like maybe 5 games a week
Right.
would be digital only. They would be very small games, and they would be curated.
Mhm.
And now it's, the floodgates are open. For the most part, there are, like, you can't put a broken game out, but theoretically you could put most...
You can say it's beta, and
Right. Well, like,
it
even...
can be mostly broken.
I think a lot of with the beta stuff is even more held under scrutiny on consoles specifically. With PC, it's like fucking with itch.io and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The world, to play any of those games back in the day was like Miniclip or
Yeah,
like
Newgrounds.
Armor Games, Newgrounds. Like, back in the day, to play something that was like small and indie was like a flash game. But
Yeah.
you know,
And at least that was like, in that, like, you knew where to go. Like, it had a place to go.
right.
But now it's like there's indie games in every console, every website, everything.
Right.
You know.
And speaking of Flash games and the Xbox Live Arcade, I didn't write it down because it was kind of a nothing story. The Behemoth announced a new game, their first game in a very long time. I think they've did like 2 mobile games since Battle Block Theater. But the Behemoth is the Castle Crashers and Alien Hominid Battle Block Theater. Also, the creators of Newgrounds. They announced their new game in a little showcase. They're doing like a whole PS5 upgrade to Castle Crashers along with a new DLC.
Oh wow!
That will be completely free with the upgrade. And at the end of this 5-minute showcase, there was a whole bunch of like add-ons for previous games. They are like, we're making a new game, but they didn't announce what that new game was.
I hate that.
Yeah, I hate that as well. It was like, this is like 6 minutes, and it's been nothing but like a weapon skin for Alien Hominid or whatever, and then it was like at the end of it, it was, we're making a new game, and I was like, well, that would have been cool to just
or at least tell us, give us something.
Right. But, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, rest in peace, Game Informer. You will be missed dearly. Like I said, I hadn't gotten a physical magazine in a very long time. But I will miss the podcast. I listen to that weekly. I'll miss the articles that I was reading, all the time online. I hope all of those people land on their feet.
No, dang it.
Alex, the video guy, he is starting his own video documentary video game thing. I forgot what it's called. I think it's called Viewport, but let me make sure that is the name. Yeah. Alex Van Aken. Is it called Viewport? Yes, Viewport. Inside looks at video games. That's the name of the channel. It looks like he'll be doing the no clip style documentary deep dives. Maybe not as in depth as No Clip, just because No Clip is No Clip. They kind of get a little bit more access than what most people would documentary wise. But it's somebody to go follow. Of course, go follow MinMax and stuff too. But Game Informer, rest in peace. Last podcast episode, we talked a little bit about the Bungie layoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, right as it was happening. It was, like, that same day we were recording, it was happening. A lot more has developed since then. The total number of layoff employees of that layoff specifically was 220 roles would be eliminated, representing 17% of the company's workforce, along with another 155 employees moving into other departments within Sony.
Wow.
These numbers, combined with the 100 people laid off in October, means that Bungie has roughly lost 40% of its total workforce in the last 12 months.
Wow.
Bungie had around 1,200 employees as of last year, and that was before the initial 100 people got laid off. Yeah, now another 230, and then 150 dispersed throughout Sony. That dispersal was kind of all over the place, but it looks like one of Destiny's side projects has just been canceled outright.
Oh, wow.
And that was called Payback. That was kind of gonna be like not a Destiny 3, but it was like basically Destiny Genshin Impact is what they were kind of pitching.
Yeah.
Like a gotcha Destiny almost, which I mean Destiny's already free to play and microtransactions, so like
Right.
now you just get random loadouts. I don't know what they were trying to do there, but they canceled that, and along with that cancellation, 2 people from Bungie that had been there for like over 20 years stepped down because they just had nowhere to go anymore.
Right.
It was like once you reached an upper echelon, it kind of you can't move up any further. But
Yeah.
then it's like, where do we put you if you know? So I forgot their names aren't written down here in this article. But yeah, that's a whole thing. Then what else? It says this is a quote from Pete Parsons specifically, which we'll talk about him in a minute. We were overly ambitious. Our financial safety margins were subsequently exceeded, and we began running in the red. Parsons wrote that Bungie will continue to focus on Destiny 2 and Marathon. We still have over 150 team members building Destiny and Marathon, and we will continue to build amazing experiences to exceed our players' expectations. Parsons also called not this most recent expansion, but the last expansion that came out, called it a quality miss. Basically, Destiny 2 Lightfall was like a huge disaster critically, and it like didn't sell well at all. Now this year, the final shape comes out. It's the big ending arc to all of Destiny 2.
Right.
And it did pretty well critically and financially, but it seemed like the writing was on the wall well before they had even shipped it.
Oh, really?
Like, a lot of these decisions were made beforehand. It seems like Pete Parsons was apparently talking to a whole bunch of, like, not a whole bunch of people, but he had talked to a couple of the social media people. It was like showing off his brand new cars and stuff like that that he had been buying in auctions.
Oh, wow.
Pete Parsons, I mean, the dude made a lot of money selling Bungie to Sony.
Yeah.
That dude has been making a lot of money for a long time. It's not like he's completely broke. He is being sued for a bunch of money right now for like embezzlement and shit like that.
Yeah.
From like Yankee Candle, it's like $45 million or something he's under investigation for. Regardless of that, though, he's bought like $3 million in classic cars within the last like 8 months.
Wow.
In the middle of that, talking about not hitting sales expectations, firing people, laying people off, all this stuff. $2 million, $3 million in terms of, in terms of game development isn't a lot of money, right? That's maybe a couple weeks worth of keeping the lights on. I mean, depending, 850 people after the layoffs, right?
Right.
You got a lot of mouths to feed. $3 million splits up for. It doesn't split that far, for once you start stretching it out. But we've seen, Japanese leaderships take pay cuts, and we've seen other companies, kind of like foot the bill for their people.
Yeah, it's doable.
Yeah, and Bungie has kind of like been stumbling across the finish line well before Sony bought them.
Yeah.
Almost it's almost undoubtedly that when Sony was upsold on Bungie and what they could possibly do for them, because if you remember, the pitch for Bungie coming over to Sony was like, they're in charge of all of our online
Right.
like gaming, and we had like the Fair Games thing. Concord comes up next week,
Yeah.
um, and then they canceled The Last of Us, and that was Bungie's doing.
Right.
You know, and according to them, that was Bungie's doing. Um, but now looking back, Bungie might have saved, saved Naughty Dog in the
True.
back end, like apparently Bungie's been bleeding money for a very long time. And if Sony didn't bought them, they would have probably been shuttered completely before this. It seems like that team is very bloated. 850 people, and they've shed over 400 people.
Yeah.
Like, I know games are hard to make and it takes a village, right? But that's a lot of people, man.
Yeah. I feel like maybe part of this is just like we're just finally catching up to all the post-pandemic issues too. Like, we definitely hired a lot more people during that time.
Yeah.
Because of the influx of just everyone being inside and playing games and stuff.
Right. We had all this extra money.
We're evening out over the years again, like everything's open again, it's almost normal, you know, all that. So it's like, it's horrible, but it's almost back to normal, if you will, at the same time. Like, a lot of these people losing their jobs are just, like, it sucks.
And this isn't, this isn't, not every layoff should be held equal. This is obviously not as bad as what happened earlier.
Yeah.
Intel laid off 15,000 people within the last couple of weeks. That is an unfathomable amount of people.
So many people, yeah. That's a whole city.
That's 15 Bungies.
Yeah.
Big.
Right.
Is what they laid off.
Yeah.
That's
crazy.
Unfathomable. But to everybody losing their jobs, I hope you get back on your feet,
Right.
Like,
at least had enough saved away to kind of chill.
It seems like a lot of these Bungie dudes will be leaving with a parachute out. A lot of them won't be kicked to the curb completely.
Yeah.
Finding another spot in this industry is becoming very hard, especially because everybody is laying people off.
Right.
Usually, I'm glad we didn't have a domino effect this time around, because it usually seems like once one company has a massive layoff like this, they all start doing it just because one can, they all can get away with it, kind of thing.
Right, yeah. Blame it on the first, they have a scapegoat.
Right, and
kinda.
Yeah, it seems like this won't be the case, thankfully. I don't know how many people Sony could afford to lose.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like if you've made it to that level of gaming and career-wise, you at least have the upper hand in maintaining or at least continuing that versus like people that haven't even made it to that level yet.
Well, ideally,
it's still all a gamble, but at least on paper, you should.
For sure, on paper, yeah. But now we're having, like I said, the leadership thing where, like, so many of these people, like, you start cutting so much the bottom line, eventually you're going to start cutting the top. And
the people that are getting dropped, the people that are getting let go at the very top, most of them are probably, or at least I would imagine should be, well enough off at this point that they could either retire and or just take on something a little smaller,
right,
and use whatever finances they've acquired throughout the years, because if you've made it 20 plus years into something and you're at the top, you should have a chunk of change saved.
Ideally,
Or what did
right?
what did you do? What did you do it all for?
Ideally, or at least have some like social cachet to like
Yeah.
get funding to,
Yep.
and that all depends on what they want to do. I mean,
Yeah,
we have so
for
many.
sure.
We have so many people like come out of these things and be like, we're making our own studio,
Mhm.
and I mean that's so many indie games. Fuck, what was I thinking of? I had like 2 or 3 in my head immediately, and then I completely lost it. But fucking, there's so many first person team based shooters that are like, these are old Call of Duty guys, these are
Right.
old Bungie guys, BioWare, DICE, like these are, there's so many, there's plenty of those coming out. It doesn't feel like there's enough that the whole industry is kind of shifting to that, but I don't, the industry's in this weird place where like there's several thousand games coming out a year,
Mm-hmm.
but it almost feels like there's nothing on the AAA level. Like,
Yeah. I mean, there's usually maybe like one,
yeah, one a month. Maybe.
if that, if even a month. Which, that's like the other thing. There are so many games that I'm okay with that, because even the AAA games that are coming out now, they're just so massive that like it takes
Right.
forever to
get through.
get through all of them, and then by the time you do, if 2 more come out, it's like you'll never catch up.
Right. Right. Yeah, the backlog is forever growing.
I mean, I don't mind it, to be honest. I mean, it is nice to have new exciting things come out all the time or whatever, but it's also kind of exhausting. Like, I downloaded 2 more games yesterday, and who knows if I'll ever. I was looking at my just what I can fit on my Xbox with no external or whatever, and like half of the games I don't think I've even opened yet.
Right.
The other half, I've maybe only beat like 10% of the games on my.
Yeah.
And usually if I beat them and they're not like replayable, like I undownloaded Like a Dragon, even though that is replayable.
Yeah.
Just because it's so big and I want to play other games.
Right. There's no way you're going to replay that anytime soon.
No, I mean, I would love to, but there are just so many games that I want to play. I'm going to wait till I've knocked a couple of those out.
Right.
Before I go back into, like, casually playing that again.
Right.
Even though I would like to stream that one. But
and there's still 8, like...
Right, there's still... Exactly, I still have to catch up on the story and stuff and all the other things, but...
you're going to be like a Dragon 9 before you finish 8, and then the side
I'll
stuff.
beat one every 10 years.
But they're coming out with like 3 of them.
I know, that's what I mean. Like, even in one series, I can't even keep up with the one series.
Jeez.
I mean, I've only just recently beat all the Borderland games, and there's only 4 of those, so...
Yeah.
Well, 5 or 6 maybe if you count the Telltale, but I don't count those.
Are you planning on seeing that movie?
The Borderlands movie? Not in theaters.
No.
I watched the Deadpool movie in theaters, and I mean, I thought it was great.
Yeah, dude, hell yeah.
Great to see in theaters, but I haven't been to the theaters in probably... Oh no, I saw the Spider-Man, so at least a year or so. But I always forget, and I think it gets worse every time, how bloody expensive it is to do anything. I mean, the tickets or whatever, the ticket prices I'm willing to pay a little extra for, especially if like I really want to see it. Like, it's kind of like paying the alpha cost to see the movie early before, whatever. But like, it was, and the drink and the popcorn alone, or I think it was like a drink and a pretzel, was like $30. And they're not even the massive cups anymore. Remember when the cups were like, it was impossible to finish in one sitting because they were like this big.
And you
they're regular size. Yeah, they can't stop you. The machines are out there. I dare them to tell me to charge again. But no, they're regular size, like large, like the same you get at a McDonald's or something. I'm like, you cut down. Crazy. You can't even give me. Let me have all the syrup I want if I'm paying $20 for it. But
which one did you go to?
I think I went to a Regal cinema in
And don't give away the location. But yeah, I know.
I don't know where we went. I think it was a Regal though.
Yeah.
But Yeah, and I mean everything else is fine. Comfy chairs, blah blah. Usually we bring in the snacks, so like the
Okay.
prices didn't affect me personally because we came prepared. We went to Five Below or something.
Yeah.
But I was like, bro, like
Yeah,
that's
it's too
crazy.
much.
So no, I wouldn't. It's very rare that I go to the theaters anymore just because of that alone. Like
Right.
I can usually wait. So I'm not gonna see that. And I also know how bad it is, and I haven't been excited for it since they released it, because I knew pretty much right away that it wasn't gonna be rated correctly.
Oh yeah.
And then as soon as I saw the cast, no one on that cast except Jack Black, and even his character doesn't really excite me. Like I love Claptrap, but him as Claptrap doesn't make sense
Right.
to me, because first of all you have to change the voice. So it's like, no, if I want to see Jack Black, I want to see Jack Black
Right.
do Jack Black stuff, not high pitched
Yeah, who's
Jack Black voice.
I mean, they obviously have a voice now for Claptrap.
That's the other thing. Why couldn't you just use the regular Claptrap voice actor if he's just a voice actor?
Well, that's what I was
And he's
gonna
already
say.
infamously, or not infamous,
The original one, the one from the first couple of games, is not the voice actor anymore. He like blood feud with Randy Pitchford.
Oh, wow.
Hates Borderlands.
Oh, interesting.
Um.
Okay, well that would have been even funnier if he was honestly in the movie.
Yeah, and then yeah, then
So he's probably laughing that the movie's not doing great.
a lot
to
of
be
people
honest.
are, dude.
But no, I'm not gonna see it because I mean, yeah, it's not rated correctly. No one on the cast excites me or even makes sense.
Right.
All it does is shout money grab to me. Like there's no spirit. I feel nothing when I watch it. Like
Funny you say that.
like it's not exciting. Like when I saw like I've never even played all the Fallout games completely. I've put a few
Right.
dozen hours into the third one and the fourth one or whatever and stuff like that. When that show came out, even the trailer, I was like, this is legit.
This
you know?
this is Fallout. Right?
But I've seen like a billion trailers for Borderlands. I've seen the intros from the very beginning, and nothing they've revealed has excited me. Or even like, if you were to have showed me this stuff, I almost wouldn't have even guessed it was Borderlands, other than like, obviously the Claptrap. And, I mean, there's a couple things that look Borderlands, but you could have almost named it something different and just gotten away with it.
100%.
So, yeah, if that answers your question.
Right. So the movie is PG-13.
Mistake number one.
It is an Eli Roth movie.
I don't know who that is.
The director of Hostel, The Green Inferno.
I don't think I've seen that.
That's a remake of old 70s like Italian cannibal movie from, like one of the ones where like a group of teenagers goes on a mission trip to an island and it turns out to be Cannibal Island. Yeah, the Green Inferno was like one of those original ones.
So the director's like a horror director?
Yes.
That's weird.
Not just a horror director, he's like specifically known for gory body horror.
Right, I was gonna say, yeah, Hostel's fucked up.
Yeah, that's Eli Roth is specifically a body horror
so how did it
person.
Get put onto a PG-13 project?
Right. So initially, the first shootings of this movie was a pretty hard R, gory movie, or at least the pitch was. The original writer got his name stricken off the movie. He does not want to be related to the movie at all. The original writer, I forgot his name, but he's the writer of Chernobyl and a couple of other Oscar-winning movies.
Right.
I think his name's like Tim something. But yeah, he got his name stricken off, and they put I forgot what the moniker is called now, but it used to be Alex Smithy back in the day, where somebody was like, they still want to credit the director, but they don't want to put the director's name on it anymore.
Right.
So they put Alex Smithy in place of it. That's what they did for him on this. But we live in the age of the internet, so you can just kind of like Google that stuff.
Yeah, it's not hard
But good for him. None of that's going to be in the news because everybody else feels the same way as you. It's funny you say this is a cash grab because this has made no money at all. Borderlands film received a generally poor reviews from critics. It's as of now sitting at a 5% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow.
The movie has earned a total of $8.8 million its opening weekend, $16.5 million globally, and 7.7 of that was in the United States. $1 million.
Yeah.
Let me pull up Deadpool real quick.
No, that's crazy.
Deadpool, Wolverine, opening weekend sales.
Just look up the first Deadpool, the one that was like.
Well, I wanted to do something
independently.
Like within the same week, you know.
Oh yeah, within the same week. But I'm just talking about production value wise. Like the first Deadpool was probably brought in more than this Borderlands, which had a higher production.
Deadpool and Wolverine clawed up $96 million domestically on its opening weekend. So just in the United States alone, it made $96 million. As of right now, it stands at $445 million, including $211 million domestically.
Nice.
That's an insane difference. The amount of money spent on this movie is reported to be a budget of $120 million and another $30 million in marketing. I would say it's probably closer to like maybe another 40 or 50, 60 million. There's so many trailers that every single time I turn on like YouTube, I get a trailer for it.
I mean, a lot, yeah.
Yeah, every time that I pull up a video that has a bad review of Borderlands, it's just filled with Borderlands ads. It's crazy. We gotta watch during 2020, the pandemic year of E3, or maybe that was 2021, where they were kind of like trying to figure out what they were gonna do with it. Gearbox had a little thing, and it was basically Randy Pitchford walking around on the movie set harassing the actors and stuff.
Oh, nice.
For like 30 minutes.
That sounds
and
lovely.
It's like it's so funny, dude. It's so funny. Especially now knowing what they're making and stuff. Like, Eli Roth is there, and he doesn't want anything to do with Randy Pitchford. He's like standing a foot behind him while Randy Pitchford's trying to explain the movie, and Eli Roth is like, his eyes are glazed over, and he's only half listening, and then he like kind of chimes in.
Right.
And then Kevin Hart and stuff is also there, and jeez, yeah, it's crazy stuff. I don't understand how. Like, how do these things get made?
It's so crazy how, from the very beginning, there's been a very strong pushback on a lot of the decisions. I don't think we were against the movie in its entirety, because a movie would be exciting. I think it would be cool to see a silly version of Mad Max on the big screen.
Right.
If they did it right, with the right rating and the right jokes and stuff behind it.
Right.
You know, because I know you don't necessarily like that sense of humor, and some of it is a little dumb or whatever, but they have their moments, and I appreciate the story overall. But it's silly enough that it's entertaining, but I think and the goriness and the over dramatic body humor, I think, makes up for it too. There's a lot of like that kind of stuff that's like, all right, I can look past your fart joke because you just ripped his arm off or something.
Right.
You know, there's kind of like that, but you don't even have that in the movie.
No.
And there's been so many pushbacks. I mean, from the very first second Kevin Hart was introduced in this movie, nobody was on board. Nobody wanted that. Nobody. Not against Kevin Hart. Nobody hated Kevin Hart. It just didn't make sense for that role at all. I would have rather preferred Terry Crews if you just wanted a name. If you just wanted a famous black actor. At least he would have been the same size as the fucking guy.
Right.
I can't even remember the character's name.
Jamie Lee Curtis plays what's her face's mom.
Right.
And they're like 6 years apart in real life age difference.
And there's not even like a lore. That doesn't even make sense really with the lore either, because there's only supposed to be so many.
Is it Dr. Tanner? I forgot what the name is. It starts with a T. And then Lilith is.
Lilith, yeah. So whatever Lilith is, I can't remember exactly what she is.
Kate Winslet.
But there's only so many of her creature in that universe.
Right. Yeah.
And so if you just go introducing others and shit, that doesn't make sense to the numbers. But also,
I don't know about all of that.
Yeah, none of it made sense. I don't know. It's very just. You're right. I don't understand how it got made either, because there's been pushback since the very beginning.
Right.
And they didn't listen to any of it. If they had changed a couple characters, if they had made the right rating,
yeah, I just don't get how it comes out in the state.
A lot better.
Yeah, it's like you have all of the QA, like it's not like a video game's QA, but like you do test screenings and stuff like that. You do reshoots. It's had multiple reshoots.
And it's not like you only had one game to go off.
No, the Borderlands movie has been in development since like 2014.
Right.
It's been a very long time that they were writing the movie, and then it was like 2020 is when they originally shot the movie, and then it's finally coming out now.
Yeah, you've had so much time and so much source material to, like, study and go off of, and
Right.
It's so weird that you would try to tone down a game that's known for being over-dramatic, you know? And then, I feel like there was just no heart in it. Because it's such a niche game.
Right.
It's one of those games where you kind of have to just... especially at this point.
It's not niche anymore. Like, Borderlands that's a big franchise now.
It's big, but it's like
over 50 million units across
It's kind of like one of those
series.
games where, like, you're either really into it or you're not at this point. Like, you can get into it, but...
And I think a lot of those people that had originally gotten into it are fucking 15 years older, you know?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean...
You're gonna make those people that were 12 years old playing a rated M Borderlands are not gonna go see a PG-13 Borderlands 15 years later.
Exactly, that's what I mean. You have to play. You have to pay. I mean, you have to make it for the crowd that we are now. Not the people that are playing Borderlands 3 for the first time. The people that have been waiting.
But even Borderlands 3 is 5 years old now.
Right.
Like,
yeah, even then, but even then,
people have graduated high school.
I was 25 when that game came out. You know.
Yeah, people were freshmen in high school and have now graduated.
No, absolutely.
Because they also came out with Tiny Tina's Wonderlands in the middle of that as well.
Yeah, that's true. Which is they did.
Another game that is
weird. That's the only one I haven't played. I forgot about that one. Actually.
That's rated teen as well.
Yeah, that one because that one's like more D&D, and I think they were trying to like...
And is the Tiny Tina character, like, is she a 15-year-old girl?
She's like a child, yeah.
Okay, because she's played by a 25-year-old in the movie.
Oh, yeah, they just picked some young, tiny girl to play a child.
Right.
Yeah, also very weird.
She doesn't look like a child, though. She looks like a 20-something-year-old in child's clothes.
They wanted... Yeah,
because she's
weird.
Like an adult height.
I think they just wanted someone that portrays the maturity of the Badlands, but looks like a child. It's easier, obviously, animated. You can draw a child and then have a 30-year-old voice.
Right.
The child, it's harder to get a 15-year-old to act like a battle-ruined, survived on their own, turning stuffies into bombs.
Yeah,
I get it, but which is another character that they shouldn't have even introduced, especially in the first one.
Right.
Like, if you were going to make a movie...
As a side character.
Introduce her as a side character, or hope you'd make it to the second movie. They just chose, like, all of the craziest characters
and
shoved them in a movie together without really making any sense of it all.
Yeah, we need Tiny Tina, Moxie, and Claptrap.
They were like, oh,
And then
Tiny Tina
that's
has
it.
her own game. She must be a very important pinnacle character. And it's
Yeah.
like, in a way, she is, but not like a staple. She's not like, you can make a whole story without her.
Right.
Because she has her own, she's doing her own evil deeds. Like,
And
there's nothing.
what I've heard about the movie, dude, what the end of the movie is so fucking stupid. But I mean, like, I haven't seen it, of course. But,
And then,
like,
also, the main thing about the Borderlands is every time the game comes out, you're introduced to a new cast
Right.
of people that are looking and exploring.
right.
So, I mean, you have your central characters, but don't make them the main characters.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, make them be characters that help your main character, which is a new person,
Right.
go along.
Well, apparently
I don't know.
Lilith is the main character of the movie, but also yeah, I haven't seen the movie, so I won't get into like details of plot wise. But like what I've heard from people, it's as bad as an ending to such a bad movie that it's insane. It's
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna wait. Once it's on streaming services, I'll watch it. I'll give it a watch. I'm not gonna
I'll give it 30 minutes.
completely waste. No, I'll watch the whole thing. I'll just, you know. Every
I'll
time
try.
it makes me sad, I'll take a shot or something.
Yeah,
you know?
I'll try to watch the whole thing, but because I'll be at home, I don't think I'll be able to get through the whole thing. Just because we're out of time, or not out of time yet, but we're running out of time, I do want to put the Borderlands stop there because there'll be more Borderlands news next week. I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I could whine for a while.
I'm sure we'll have plenty of talking about next week when it fails even harder. This is good news. I wanted to end on good news, because it's always good to end on good news. We don't have a lot of good news in this gaming industry as of right now. Earlier this year, Tango Gameworks shut down. Xbox
Why is that good news?
had bought in Bethesda, and Tango Gameworks put out Hi-Fi Rush. Hi-Fi Rush did amazingly well critically. Sales-wise, we don't really know, just because that wasn't part of the pitch. This was a Game Pass game kind of thing. A lot of people really like that game. I actually didn't end up playing it. I might play it one day.
I think I'm still playing it.
Oh, really? It's
That's the game where you surf on power cables and stuff?
No, that's Sunset Overdrive. Hi-Fi Rush is like the cartoony one where it's like a action adventure game, but it's like you play to the rhythm of the beat to do moves and stuff like that.
Oh, maybe not. It sounds familiar though.
Yeah, because it was everywhere last year. You've seen it for sure.
Yeah.
It's on Game Pass.
Maybe I played it briefly.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's people adore it. I would say go play it. It would be 100% up your alley. But you already have such a big backlog.
Yeah.
So
wait till I tell you.
PUBG publisher Krafton has acquired Tango Gameworks and the Hi-Fi Rush IP from Xbox as a part of its strategic agreement. The firm says that it's working with Xbox to enable a smooth transition so that the Tango team can continue developing Hi-Fi Rush IP and explore future projects. Tango Gameworks, one of the 4 Bethesda studios that Microsoft announced plans to shut down, and one of 4 that was one of 4 of them that they shut down in May. Also, Tango Gameworks is the creator of the Evil Within series. They also did Ghostwire Tokyo. Those IPs are not coming over with them. It looks like Krafton only wants the Hi-Fi Rush IP along with Tango. The reason why Krafton is notable, I mean, this is notable regardless of who wants to buy them. Krafton, like I said, is the PUBG publisher.
Oh, word.
And then the Callisto Protocol publisher as well. They want to, expand. They own Striking Distance that made Callisto Protocol as well. But PUBG was its own thing, and then to kind of make a bigger umbrella company outside of just PUBG. Those people would make Crafton.
Yeah.
So Crafton is still technically just the PUBG thing, but it's the shell now for all of it. For things like this. Who knows what the extent of all of this means? We don't know how many people are getting hired back. I mean, like I said, it was May. I thought it was a little bit earlier when they shut these people down, but it was May when they fired everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Presumably, like, some people have gotten new jobs and, like, have moved on. Some people have probably moved by now or getting ready to move. Like,
yeah.
we're in the middle of August now. It's still 2 months. Like, that's a lot of time. And with a team that's making an award-winning game, you know, like a highly beloved, critically award-winning game, they're going to be up for grabs. You know, it's not like the Destiny team where they're, like, floundering and financially and can't, like, figure out what to do. It's like this team made a game on a small budget and it fucking killed.
Right.
And yeah, I'd imagine it's not just for the game, like a Netflix show, like that, it's a cartoon. Like, they can do so much with it.
Yeah,
it's kind
absolutely.
of crazy. Yeah, it was just a little thing to end on. There's no details on how much they bought it for or anything. And like I said, the extent of how many people are going to be coming over from the initial team, we don't know, but the director, he's coming over, and he basically said, hey, if you lost your job back in May, you have a job again, please contact me. You know?
Yeah.
They have it sounds like they have the thought of bringing on everyone.
Right.
Whether or not, if that's possible, we'll see.
That's cool, though, yeah.
Yeah. Patrick does have a heart out. He's getting a little antsy. I could see that.
It's just getting warm. I think that's what it is.
Too.
It's the temperature's starting to change.
I turned off the fan.
Well, in the day is beginning. All the humidity from the rain the last couple days and stuff.
It's 1 p.m.
It is 1. Dude. It's almost the hottest time.
Yeah. Yeah, he has a show today, so that's exciting.
Yeah. We can talk about games really quick, though, if you want to.
Yeah, I am on the last boss of Elden Ring. Like, the last boss, period.
DLC, or?
All of it.
All of it? Nice.
Yeah.
Forever.
The last boss of the DLC is so insane.
Yeah.
The build-up, the reveal, the lore ties fucking emerging and converging, dude. Yeah. Fucking mind-blowing.
Nice.
So cool.
I stopped watching about halfway through the DLC.
Yeah.
I'm getting the itch to play it again. I mean, the DLC is such a intimidating thing to work myself towards, but I stopped enough where I was like, well, I won't reveal all of it. I'll let it be secrets. Because even, like, a lot of even the community, I think, itself, and maybe the game is just so massive, I don't even know, but, like, a lot of the reveals have been kind of low-key. I feel like it's more of, like, if you know, you know type of thing. So
yeah,
if you don't know enough, it can go right by you. You don't even know you've been surprised by something, so.
Right. I think if the right way to play one of these games is just play at your leisure, of course. But if you want to understand the lore, all of that is there online for sure.
Yeah.
And if you're going to replay it, it's definitely worth just throwing, like, a Vati video on and then just having it play in the background, or just we talk about media literacy and stuff a lot, like the lore notes specifically that on items and stuff, like that helps so much.
Oh yeah, and then absolutely. I more or less watch it for the overall story, so I don't have to do any of the thinking 100%. Or whatever. But like if I'm playing it,
that's the hard
I'll
part
just
too.
Play it to my style and then get revealed, and once I beat it, I'll watch another video to see what I missed or whatever.
Yeah, a lot of it is so. Elden Ring does have certain things that are like there is a full story there with certain characters. They're
Yeah.
just very all over the place. But a lot of these games are like, you have a story bit here and a story bit here,
Mhm.
and maybe the ending, but a lot of the rest is kind of like up to interpretation on what happened in between.
Right.
And
Yeah,
it's
because
just-
it's not necessarily linear. It's not forcing you to take everything
Right.
in. And much like what I like is much like the real world. There's a lot going on at once.
Right.
And so it is kind of impossible to take all that in.
Right.
You know? But that's the brilliance of it. It's like, at least, unlike the real world, you can go back and learn the rest again or whatever. But
Yeah.
it does have that aspect of, like, you just sometimes can't learn everything.
Right.
You know?
And Elden Ring is, the lore is so vast.
Mhm.
Like, a lot of the beginning parts of the lore are several thousand years before the events of all the gods and shit.
Right. Yeah.
And then all the gods and shit happen. And then it's several hundred or a couple thousand years later.
Mhm.
And now we're in the events of Elden Ring.
And then everything's spoken in fucking,
Yeah, Gaelic and Old
Gaelic
English.
and-
Yeah.
poems and riddles and
100%.
half-written sentences and shit. So
Yeah.
it's like, but that's the other part of the game, is the puzzle of figuring out what this game is. And
Right.
That's, that's a whole different thing, and that's what keeps people coming back. Because I don't think people would play it if it was just a really hard game.
Yeah. I think
The lore is definitely what ties it all together.
100%.
For sure.
I think the easiest way to digest anything of these games, I mean, like, following a guide is also an easy way.
Yeah.
Fighting Cowboy is one of my favorite YouTubers for these things. I love his guides. I'll watch them without even playing the game. Like,
Yeah.
it's just, like, oh, that's an item I never picked up, and then stuff like that. He won't go through the lore specifically. He might talk about it. Vatividia has full breakdowns of lore and stuff, from, like, 10-minute videos on specific characters to, like, 3-hour videos on whole story arcs.
Yeah.
And I recommend that channel. A lot of Souls players would already know that and would recommend that, so I'll give you that recommendation as well. The Brothers Code is another one that I recommend. I love them a lot. They do, like, huge, massive ones, or like 3-4 hour retrospectives of across the Soul series.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's very rewarding for that stuff if you want it to be there.
Mm-hmm.
But the spectacle of all of that stuff is so worth it. Like,
No, absolutely. Yeah.
before I understand now that I think my playtime now is like 170 something hours on this character.
Mm-hmm.
This is my second character.
Right.
You'll start figuring out stuff when you're that deep, because people's names are just they're all the same, you know? Like, I'm 180 hours in, we're still talking about Radon and Moog and stuff like that, and I've killed them,
Right.
long time ago. And they're still being brought up, and then still finding out things about him that piece stuff together, right? That stuff is all there, but the spectacle of, like, just like the boss fights are insane. The DLC boss fights are, like, they're not some of the craziest boss fights, like, but a lot of them are. A lot of them are pretty wowing. A lot of them have a lot more movement than any other Souls boss does.
Yeah, they looked like it. The ones that I saw, yeah.
Yeah, I did that 3-phase sunflower that we watched.
Mm-hmm.
I did that in like 2 tries, just because I
Nice.
did it so late in the DLC.
Oh, right.
I was like way overpowered for that. I mean, overpowered is relative, I guess. That I was following, my version of my path,
Right.
and that just ended up being like the second to last boss of the DLC that I faced.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I think my shadow level was like level 18 by that point. And I'm making a point now in that last episode that I just recorded yesterday it's like 4 hours and 10 minutes, and 2 hours of it was just going through the Skidoo fragment guide, and then
Right.
I was just scrolling through. I was like, well, I haven't been to that place yet. Let's go find where that is.
Yeah,
And
get
let's
all
go
the
do that
fragments.
side boss and stuff. Yeah, like dude, I stumbled on a whole new area yesterday. I had never been to.
That's crazy.
I was,
There's probably a handful of those.
yeah, I was like, how is there a whole other, like 3-4 hours
Just
of game?
irrelevant to the story. Just
Right.
like a little side.
Yeah, it was
thing,
such
yeah.
a pain in the ass to like figure out how to get there. Like a whole hour of that episode was me like stumbling around and poking around trying to figure out where to go.
Wow.
And then it was like, oh, I found it. Holy shit, there's like 3 side bosses right here and like
Yeah.
a whole fucking dungeon and stuff. It's like, okay, well, guess I know what I'm doing this. I thought we were fighting the last boss this episode, but that's next
Maybe
episode.
2 more episodes.
Yeah.
At this
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too, because I still have the last boss of the game. It'll be the last episode period, I think, next episode if I do another 4.5 hour episode. But yeah. What have you been playing before you leave? I would love to hear what you've been doing.
Well, I finally made enough room for Modern Warfare 3. But you know what? Kenny and I are kicking butt.
Oh, okay.
Alright? Like,
How
we
big
are
is it?
like, it's huge.
It's like 180
It's
something,
big.
right?
Like I said, I had to get rid of like a dragon to fit it.
For sure.
But I made it work, and it's a little laggy, which is kind of the gameplay's fine. Like the menus and stuff are what's laggy, and
Right.
part of that's probably because we usually play at the same time.
Yeah.
And then also part of it's probably because it's like my Xbox is now almost at max capacity for
Right.
memory. I deleted a couple more games, but we usually play together, and we're like
Hell yeah.
top of our party usually.
Fuck yeah,
like
dude.
2.0 KDR ratio and stuff. Like we're
Hell yeah.
we're killing it. So like it was worth it. I also deleted a couple more games and downloaded Wolong
Oh, okay, fuck
because I
yeah,
wanted
dude.
to play that.
Yeah.
I played like the first 30 minutes of that game.
That's a fucking brutal.
It was pretty fun.
It's brutal. It's so hard, man.
The first part of the game wasn't though. The first part of the game was like almost handholdy, so I'm
Yeah.
like looking forward to that part to go away, so I can kind of figure it out. I do like that they give you the weapons from the Liza P. So now I have like
I used the umbrella. Yeah.
my second weapon is always going to be the umbrella, just so I'm like always
Yeah.
have it equipped because you can see it
Right.
on your character. So yeah, I did that. And then I went back and played Liza P. I had some cleanup to do before the boss that I'm on.
Right.
I didn't know that. I just thought I was just going to go into the boss, and then I like talked to one NPC, and they were like, "Oh, you got to go do this," and I was like, "Oh, cool." So then I did that, which brought me to this area that I hadn't done.
Is that the bridge part where they open up the gate?
I did finally go into that part
Okay.
with the dog.
Yeah,
Little kid dog.
Albertia. Or
Yeah, I
whatever.
did that. That was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. And then I did, I went back to the train station after it's been taken over by the things. And I went and did all of there's like these little areas where they're like covered in the smog stuff, and you have to like time it out right and to get to it. So I did a couple of those. And then that's where the NPC's friend was. So I had to go talk to him because he was turning to a creature or something. And then I did that, and I got a couple more records, so I listened to those, upgraded a couple more times, and now I think I'm caught up where I can go back to the boss that I'm on. I think that I don't think there's any more side stuff for now, so I can go back and do that for now. So that's where I'm at on that. And then I played, and then I've just been playing that Lonely Mountain downhill game.
Yeah.
Which is kind of
It's
like
my
my
favorite.
in-between.
I love that.
Yeah, it's a nice little in-between. I mean, each map, once you get a hold of it, only takes like 4 or 5 minutes. So you're just kind of like ripped down,
Yeah, I love that game. That's my like Souls as the end game, that is also...
It's very much like a Souls-like mountain.
It's very brutal.
It's very brutal, very unforgiving. Like, even when you think you get, like, a trail down, you make one little mistake, and it's like, ah.
Yeah. But
it's also very exciting when you discover a new trail.
Right.
I've, like, been discovering these trails that I don't even know if they are trails. I've just, like, been managing the mountain with holding the brake down the whole time.
Yeah, and you find a little side path. Yeah, there's so many of those.
So it's very thrilling.
Little campsites. Yes. That's like my favorite, where like you'll go off this little side path, and then it'll be like another side path. Yeah. And it'll be like a campsite.
And you can just take a rest.
And then it'll be like this beautiful view.
Very peaceful.
I love it, dude.
Yeah, so that's been exciting. That's kind of like my kill some time between stuff game if I'm like waiting for Kenya to log on the other game or something.
Hell yeah. Damn.
And then all the other games that I've been playing before are still kind of in the rotation. But now, I mean, I haven't made it 100% official yet, but now pretty much no matter what I play, I'm just going to stream. Because I was trying to do some sort of like, oh, I'll make this a series, I'll just play this game only. But now it's like, just do them all, upload it. I might have an actual potential editor that'll edit my streams eventually once I figure out what that means. I don't really know what I'd like to edit because I don't have a face cam either, so it's like, what are you just going to cut footage of me playing, you know?
There's really nothing to edit.
Yeah, so it's like a future thing. Once I get a camera, there'll be more potential ideas. I can turn it to more of like a...
Right. It depends on, like, for me, like, I do a 4.5 hour long play. I'm not clipping things. I'm not doing... I should clip stuff.
Well, that's why this guy would do that. If this works out. But I figured regardless, if I just upload it all and then do something with it later, whatever. And then if not, at least it's uploaded.
Yeah.
And so...
100%.
So yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing now.
Damn. Well long... Dude, that game is so brutal. I got my ass handed to me.
Really?
Like,
I mean, so far it's been pretty... I mean, very nice. Like, I love the whole dodge and instantly, like, parry, backstab thing that they got going on. That's been really cool.
Yeah, I think the parry being also on the dodge button was, like, my biggest gripe. Because it wants to be Sekiro, but it's not.
No. I haven't had an issue with it yet because it's either...
It's not a bad mechanic.
Because usually I'll dodge last minute anyway, so it just chooses which one.
Right. It's not a bad mechanic. I mean, a lot of the time it is that I want to dodge and then it does a parry. And I'm like, no, I want to step 3 feet the other direction. Right. And for some reason you think I want to put my sword up. But there's so much it's trying to do with the buttons that it can't.
Yeah, there seems like because there's that whole other magic menu and stuff.
There's all the magic shit, and I think the magic shit is it's cool. There's a lot of cool things.
I think it helps. It's trying to make it like where you can play a ton of different ways,
right? But
where most people just play Souls likes. Like, there's, like, a few specific ways.
Yeah, no matter what with that game, though, you're gonna have melee builds. Like, a pure magic build seems, like, impossible in that game. Like, unless because there's not, like, a way to regen your magic, on command. Like, you need to build the meter in order to get your magic back. So... in that case, you need to be good at fighting. Yeah. And if you're relying on your magic and stuff like that, you're not getting better at fighting. Right. And the boss that I was stuck on is, like, the first big gate boss. Yeah. I want to say I got, like, 7 hours in or something like that. It was, like, level 50, 60. Wow. And then you get to this one area where it's it looks like Gyobo from Sekiro, the horse fight. Yeah. But he does not move. He kind of moves like that. But because you can't parry like you can in Sekiro, you're not fighting him like that. and then he gets off the horse and does like crazy shit too. It's like that was a really hard fight, and I spent like 3 or 4 hours on it. I was like, I'm done. I think Liza P was also out at that same time, so I was like, Liza P is the one that I'm going with. This, but I mean, I wouldn't mind going back to it. They're not bad games. I also Neo is the other games that they made, and I played the first one. I never played the second one, and I think I own it. But those are PlayStation exclusives. I don't have the PlayStation anymore because it overheated.
Right.
They make good games. I'm excited to see what that team does next. They did Rise the Ronin, which also came out this year.
Oh, yeah.
That's another PlayStation exclusive. That didn't get as high as reviews, but that seemed a little bit more freeform in what you could do.
Yeah.
Because you have like range weapons and stuff like that.
Right.
You have like you can like jump off a building and like put like a kite on your back and fly around like crazy shit. It's more Assassin's Creed like.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
You brought up Wukong, which made me think of Wolong, or you brought up Wolong, which made me think of Wukong.
Right, that's the other one.
Before you leave, I wanted to bring this up, because this is going to be irrelevant, and like next week, where is it? The press release for this game is fucking insane, dude. They're asking people that are reviewing this game, like, the craziest shit. Review guidelines? Is that the way to word this? Black Myth Wukong publisher issues bizarre directive on what streamers can and can't say.
Why?
Because this game is made from China. So basically, I wanted like the list, but fucking Polygon is garbage. Yeah. There we go. Here's the list. Do not insult other influencers or players. That's a good one. Makes sense. Do not use any offensive language or humor. Okay. Do not include politics, violence, nudity, feminist propaganda, fetishization, and other content that instigates negative discourse. What? Feminist propaganda?
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
In a monkey game?
Do not use trigger words such as quarantine, isolation, or COVID-19. Alright, man.
I guess 4 years later, that's still an issue.
Chinese game. You know.
Right. Yeah, they don't want to be...
This is the last one. It also makes sense, but again, it's because of the thing. Do not discuss content related to China's game industry policies, opinions, news, or etc. So if you have any opinion about Hong Kong or anything like that, do not talk about it while playing this game. These guidelines are for people that were reviewing the game and kind of like doing previews and stuff like that. So like now that the game is out, it's irrelevant because like who the fuck's gonna stop me? If I want to say like the monkey has a big swinging dick and it looks hot, you know.
Yeah, and he has COVID.
And he has COVID, right? You know, and he's a feminist.
Right.
He loves women's rights. It's such a weird thing to even acknowledge.
I mean, they do be doing weird stuff like that. I mean, they changed the movie posters,
right,
to just for specific Chinese audiences.
Right.
It's like you can't change the whole movie.
Yeah.
What do you know?
This studio was under fire because of like toxic work culture and stuff last year, where it was like they have a bunch of women working on the game, but like a lot of the people that work there are also anti-women and stuff like that, which I don't know how much of that is true. That's an IGN deep dive into that whole company, and I don't know, because a lot of that wasn't interviews, it was just like hearsay.
Yeah.
Because it is a Chinese company. I I don't know. The game is reviewing well, though. It's getting a bunch of 8s. It seems like it's not as good as Lies of P, but it's probably on the Wolong side of Souls-likes. It's also not as unforgiving as most Souls-likes, but it's still pretty hard, is what people are saying.
Yeah.
But overall, it seems like an okay game. It's just they're being really weird about all of this, and they kind of like shot themselves in the foot at the last minute.
That is strange.
Yeah, it's like this game. We have known what the monkey character has looked like for. Well, you showed this game off 4 years ago. It's the most viewed video on my channel. Is the reveal of this game.
Right, and also outside of the game, this character's been. It's an existing...
Right, the Monkey King.
Character, right.
Yeah.
I play Wukong in fucking League of Legends.
But if somebody wants to be like, I want to fuck that monkey butt, you know?
You don't own this... Wukong is a god.
Right.
He's a lore-driven god character. And you don't know him just because you made a game.
It's based off the Journey to the West story. Like, the whole game is based off that story.
Yeah, so, like...
it's very weird. It's
like
very
Disney.
weird. Yeah, but if Disney was also... Well, I guess Disney is kind of like China. It's very...
Yeah.
If you're on Disney property, it's probably kind of close,
mm-hmm.
depending on what you can and can't do inside of Disneyland proper.
Yeah, it'd be one thing if they invented a new IP or something, but they just took a pre-existing... Like, even... I mean... I guess, technically, like, God of War could have the same argument, because they're using pre-existing gods and stuff as well, but they're not.
Yeah, and also God of War fetishizes itself and
well,
a
yeah,
bunch of
I mean,
crazy
those
other things,
those fucking, yeah, they were all
I don't know
perverted gods anyway.
Yeah, I don't... Yeah, fucking the threesome minigame in God of War 1 or whatever. Yeah, it's very strange. I don't get it. It's... A lot of this stuff is like... It's just... Are people talking to each other? Same thing with, like, the Borderlands movie coming out and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, they had people, you know, go to test screenings. Like, this company has PR. Like, you know, like, people talk to each other, but, like, somehow shit's just fucked all the time through with everyone. It's crazy. Patrick does have to go. I kept him here another 20 minutes. He has to be somewhere at 2, and it's like a 30-minute drive there. It's 1:40 now.
Yeah, I could probably push it to 2:30, so it's fine. But yeah, I probably should leave.
I don't want to rush you out the door. I just don't want you to miss what you got to do. Yeah, it's just a crazy time for video games. Gamescom being this week, I don't know how many crazy reveals we're gonna get. Probably none. We might get a couple of really cool ones. But opening night live is pretty disappointing usually. In my opinion, it's a 2-hour show that feels like it drags.
Yeah.
But there could be some cool things. There was Pokemon had a bunch of announcements this week because of Pokemon World Championships. The Pokemon Pocket card game finally got a release date. It comes out in October. That will be a free-to-play, not dumbed down, but a truncated version of the Pokemon card game where instead of having 6 prize cards, you have 3.
Yeah.
And then it's just smaller games. You'll have, like, you open packs by, like, walking around and battling and stuff. Like, it seems really cool. The other thing that they announced was that... What was the other thing? It's more to the cards, but trainer cards are coming back. Trainers Pokemon are coming back, meaning that when you have a card, it usually just has the Pokemon on it.
Yeah.
Like this.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of them back in the day would be like, this is Ash's Pikachu. And then it would have Ash's face on it as well. Those are coming back. Along with that, Team Rocket cards are coming back. And that's probably in my opinion, my favorite thing. Where you have dark Pokemon and stuff like that. Evil
That's cool.
Pokemon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Also, what was the other last thing? Nintendo had a small little direct. It didn't have any games in it. They finally revealed what the museum is going to look like. The Nintendo Museum is going to be opening up in Kyoto.
Is it called the Museum, like MEW? Like Mewtwo?
No, but that would be funny.
It should have. You guys.
Museum. There's no Pokemon. There might be Pokemon stuff inside of it, but the Pokemon company has, like, Disney stores in Japan. Like, Pokemon centers are everywhere in Japan.
Oh, I bet, yeah.
There's not really a Nintendo store. Like, there's a couple of them, but Nintendo also doesn't really have, like, a place for their history. Now they do. Now they have, like, I mean, there's all, the tour is crazy what they show off, and of course it's not all of it, but, like, every single Nintendo hardware you can think of, like, plaques of history, crazy prototypes, like,
that's cool.
Yeah, in-depth, like, discussions, fucking, like, things that you can interact with, like, with the old stuff that never came out, you know, like,
oh, wow.
There's,
that's
like,
nice.
yeah,
That's
there's
nice.
like a little restaurant that looks like a church, and it's all stained glass with, like, Zelda theming
Oh, sick.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just really cool stuff. That's a cool, like, 11-minute direct that it's fun. It's Miyamoto's giving the tour, so it's cool just to see Miyamoto be, you know, 75 years old walking around, right? Yeah. Well, that's all I got. We will have a longer episode next week. Ideally, it will be a fun one. I don't know how crazy again this week will be with all of the GameStop stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Ideally, we have something cool to talk about. Who knows? We'll have plenty of to talk about regardless, I'm sure. But yeah, man. I hope you have a great show today.
Yeah, me too.
Whatever you're doing. Are you doing, like, a full set, or are you just doing, like, an open mic kind of thing?
I'm not sure, to be honest.
No.
I'm not 100% sure.
Because you did a full 30 the other day, right? And
yeah,
like
I've been doing those a little more. I mean, this month in general, I've been kind of just with the car stuff. I haven't really been doing anything.
Yeah, I feel you.
It picks up kind of next month. I started scheduling some stuff again, but then we're going to Disney World at the end of October. So I didn't want to put too much on my plate before then, just because I wanted to save up money to...
That's a perfect time. So, the end of October there'll probably be a 2-week period where we won't have podcasts again, because he will be on vacation, I will be on vacation at the same time.
Right.
Because I will be going to my parents.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the 24th to the 1st or
oh,
something
okay,
like that.
cool. Word. Right on. Yeah, that's probably about the same time I'll be gone, like that last week into November.
Yeah.
We'll be down there. So, just to, like, save gas and stuff, instead of spending money on all that, I'll just save up for October for Disney World funds, because it's so expensive. And
right. Yeah. Yeah, I want to go to Disney. I've been thinking about just... I've been doing just more stuff by myself.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
The other day, I went to like a spot that Kyle and I are very nostalgic about from high school. But I just went on a hike by myself, and I was like, I should just start doing this more on my days off.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Going on an adventure.
100%.
Today I won't be, because of all the stuff that recording this, and then I think Gamescom is right now. It's happening right now.
I was gonna say, it's probably about to start if you want to...
Yeah, I think the pre-show is happening
over.
now, and then at 2 o'clock the actual show starts. But I'm gonna go get lunch and then come back first anyways. It's a 2-hour show, so I'll start the show somewhere in the midpoint and then catch up, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I keep looking at my phone like this is gonna say something new and give me an idea of what to say. Yeah, man. I don't know. It's always exciting to talk, so I always want us to talk more.
No,
so.
yeah, I don't blame
you do have to go, so I will end it here. It's been fun, guys. It's been real. Peace, hugs, success. Bye.